welcome to Money Matters TV. My name is James Chan. I'm your host in this episode of Money Matters TV. My company is Asia Marketing and Management. We set up in 1983 to help companies export to China and Asia. With me today is my favorite co-host, John Mason. Hi, John.
Hello, James. How are you doing?
Very good. Good to see you again and good to work with you.
Good to see you, James.
And yes, hi, John. I know that you have quite a bit to say with decades of experience in finance and investment. And I actually looked you up just again to be impressed by your credentials,
Well,
beginning as a young man teaching at Wharton, and then through all the things which I'm sure that people can easily find out by looking at your profile on LinkedIn. But back to matters at hand, with Biden's administration and all the initiatives, economic initiatives, you must have your latest observations or insights on what's going on with the stock market or, with inflation. I'm sure that at least I'm all ears. Say something.
well, this is a time. I think we've spoken about the concept of radical uncertainty before, and radical uncertainty is when you don't have even enough information to know what all the possibilities are that we might be going into, and to make policy in that, to make huge amounts of spending in that, and the like. It really opens up the world to a lot of possibilities. One of the things that I think is so important now is that trying to know where we are as far as the economy is concerned, because that affects what we should be doing policy-wise, what investors should be doing, what businesses should be doing, and I think we've got all sorts of stories running around here. The International Monetary Fund yesterday put out new forecasts for the future. The world economy this year is going to be increasing at a 6% annual rate, according to the IMF. As far as the United States is concerned, they're expecting that the United States will grow by 6% this year. Wow. We're supposedly been in a recession, and we're going to grow by 6% this year. That's just phenomenal. But it also raises some other questions. It raises questions about, what we should be doing in this kind of environment. And one of the issues here is that the economy began it began the recession, according to the National Bureau of Economic Research, in February 2020. Well, 2 days ago, the board of editors of the Wall Street Journal, they presented the possibility that maybe the economy started recovering in April of 2020. Whoa, that means that was the shortest, deepest recession that we've ever had. The IMF has on records that the economy declined by 3.5% last year, but now they're seen as growing by 6%. What a turnaround. Wow. This has not been a policy-driven recession. This has been a supply-side recession, in the sense the pandemic hitting the United States, hitting the rest of the world. What happened is businesses were closed, people were laid off, a lot of things were happening, but it wasn't because there was a decline or a drop in demand. And that is one of the reasons why a lot of people are claiming that we are returning to growth so rapidly, is that this is a supply side response to the pandemic and the efforts that have been made by the United States and everywhere else in the world in order to get the pandemic under control. Big question there is, wow, if you have a 6% rate of growth plan for this year, do you need all that stimulus? Do you need to be piling all that money into the financial markets, into the economy? And this is what has stirred a lot of discussion recently about the possibility of inflation picking up so badly. That if you've got all that fiscal stimulus coming on, being supported by the Federal Reserve, that you just can't help to avoid a fairly inflationary future. Yes, James.
So do you believe, I know predict is a rather scary word, but do you believe that there is inflation on the in the offing?
Well, it depends on where it's going to come out. And this is something that I've been talking about over the last few years and so forth. Here again, we had a remarkable inflation last year, and that was during a recession. What was the inflation? Well, you had at least 18 new historical highs in the stock market. That's with a recession. You had huge amounts of money going into finance. These blank check companies, the special project acquisition companies. How many millions or billions of dollars went into there? People were making money right and left all over the place. And then even when you come to aggregate data, what do you see? Last week, the government released data on the net worth of individuals in the United States. And guess what? In a year of recession, we hit a new historical high. The net worth of individuals has never been as high as it was last year during the pandemic-driven economic recession.
But John, I have to say this. When you refer to the net worth of individuals, you are actually focusing on high net worth individuals. You're not talking about the mom and pop on Main Street or, you know.
Exactly, James. You're spot on with that, because I mean, I think we're going to see coming out of this last year or two that probably one of the greatest increases in income distribution that skewed to the wealthy. There's just no question about it. But this is the kind of world that we've created. This is the kind of world that we're in right now. And to me, that's why there's so much uncertainty going forward, is everything's skewed. Everything is kind of out of sync with everything else. And so you're going to, I mean, the Biden administration already has a $1.9 trillion tax package that they've put out, which is going to create lots and lots of debt. Well, even before the Biden administration got in, people were aghast at the amount of debt the U.S. government was going to put out over the next 10 to 15 years and so forth. This is one of the reasons why the Fed is pumping so much money into the economy again, is to support the deficit, the government debt. And now you're talking about a $2 trillion or more bill for infrastructure and other things like that. I mean, this is where all the craziness of the present time gets put together.
John, maybe this.
How are we going to do all this?
I know. We can go on for 2,000 years. We don't have that time to live.
I understand.
Why don't you answer this question from a viewer, from Norman Johnson of Philadelphia? Efficient, chaotic. What's new finance?
New finance basically refers to the, you might say, the electronic changes that are taking place within the financial system. I don't know. We haven't talked much about what's happening to the payment systems in terms of banks and so forth, but with PayPal and other things like that, you're just finding that the financial system is changing just overnight. And it's going to be remarkable what's going to happen in finance over the next 3 to 5 years and the like. And that isn't including the cryptocurrencies and things like this, and the fact that I think one of the most interesting things going on right now is China is in the process of creating an electronic currency, and it expects to have that electronic currency up and running for the World Olympics that is going to be held there. So they basically plan to hit the world with a currency that is all electronic. Wow. I mean, when you look at the United States, we are so sorrowfully behind in this right now that it is really amazing that what might happen. Again, we're in the realm of radical uncertainty. Is if China does present a workable electronic currency in the World Olympics, what's that going to do to world finance?
I can tell you, when I go to China next time, I wouldn't know even how to pay anything. I'll just let people pay. In the
exactly.
meantime, I'm very happy that you introduced this idea of radical uncertainty. I can agree with you more. In the meantime, for all you viewers, this is how you send in your questions to Money Matters TV.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says Send Us Your Questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, MONEY, -matters, MATTERS, TV.com.
Welcome back to Money Matters TV. It's time for us to introduce our special guest, Mr. David Fries of the law firm Unruh, Turner, Burke and Fries. He comes highly recommended. I've heard so many good things about David before I even got on. So hi Dave, how are you?
Hi, James. It's great to be joining you, and thank you.
I really heard great things about you. Believe it or not, I cannot divulge my secret informant, but he's a fan. He's a big fan of you.
My mother would be very happy to hear that.
Now, I know that you, your law firm and you specifically, are very achieved and eager and excellent in providing a wide range of services. I actually look up your firm. And now, but I'm curious, my first question to you is, actually, with all your years of experience, what do people not do with their estate planning? In other words, what is it that some people never get it in terms of making sure that their wealth will be given properly and to the right people? I think I've made myself extremely clear, but it's a tough question. But do tell us.
Sure. So I think if I look at the thousands of plans that come into my office where somebody says, it's been a while since I've done this, there are a number of themes that I think answer your question. A lot of times people don't realize that they could do things to protect their surviving spouse, if they have one, or their children or grandchildren from risks that would exist and could possibly result in them losing their inheritance. For example, many people fail to provide the right kind of trusts so that when they leave an inheritance to a child or a grandchild or a spouse, that if that child or grandchild or spouse marries or remarries and then gets divorced, if the trust is not the right kind of trust, that money could be lost in a divorce. It could be lost in a car accident when there's a lawsuit. It could be lost to creditors if a business goes bad. It could be lost in liability resulting from involvement in a business. So many people don't even know that this is within their power to do it. So I often see that it hasn't been done. And then when we talk to them about it, they say, yes, this is a fantastic idea. I've had a child divorced and I don't want them to lose the inheritance that they received from me. So I would say that that kind of asset protection planning is something that lots of people like when they realize they can do it, but a lot of people don't realize they can do it. And there's a lot of misconceptions out there about trusts too. People come in and they say, well, I have a revocable trust, so that's going to protect my assets from taxes. And that's not really true. In Pennsylvania, at least as is in many states, putting your assets into a revocable trust will still leave them susceptible to state tax, and will absolutely leave them susceptible to federal state tax. So there's just a fundamental misunderstanding. And then the final big mistake I see is failure to line up the ownership and beneficiary designations of IRAs and 401ks and life insurance policies. So I sometimes see these very well drafted plans, but there was another step that people had to take, and it's time consuming, and they get on the phone and then all of a sudden they get on hold and they forget to make those changes. So that's a very, very common mistake, is failing to line up the way the assets are structured to make them work with the documents that people create. I hope that answered that question.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I have others, but I'll have John ask you the next question.
Oh, okay. The world is changing so much, Dave. I mean, this must affect you too. How do you prepare prepare your clients for understanding how aware they must be in this new age?
Yes, I mean, things are changing so quickly that people aren't used to this. So in other words, it was commonly the case that people would do a will or do a trust and do some elaborate estate planning. And then they thought, well, for years, people thought that was it. Yeah, I did that in my 50s. I should be good forever. But we stay in very close contact with clients. And so we would see clients coming in somewhere between 5 and 10 years later to make changes in their planning. But now the world is changing so quickly. People's finances are changing so quickly because of COVID and external factors that, John, like you were describing. And the makeup of their portfolios and the assets that they own and that they're trying to pass on are changing so radically. And the pace of legislative and tax policy change is taking place so rapidly. So, we had a major change in the federal estate tax before the Trump administration. We had a major change in the federal estate tax during the Trump administration. And now we're expecting, as we sit here talking today, to have a major change in the federal estate tax system under the Biden administration. So that we have this series of very significant changes that mean that their documents, no matter how well drafted, might not work to achieve what they want them to achieve anymore. So to answer your question, John, we've ramped up. We always did a pretty good job of this, but we've ramped up the frequency with which we communicate with all of our clients to let them know what's going on. And we have developed tools. I'm sure other law firms are doing this too. But we will tell them, here's a change. And a lot of times we'll have a quiz or a tool to help them determine whether that change affected them or not. Is your estate above a certain size? Because if you're below that, this change won't matter. But there are state legislative changes regarding digital assets and technology that have just occurred in Pennsylvania. And if you did your planning a year ago, it might be advisable to tweak some of those things. Now, we realize as lawyers that you have to be realistic about that, but we're trying to be in communication more often, offer more seminars and content for our clients so that they are aware of the changes and aware of the need to make changes. The other thing that happens, of course, is things change in people's lives. There's a divorce, there's the birth of a first grandchild, there are all these things. You buy more life insurance or you cancel some life insurance, and who was getting that life insurance was a central part of your estate planning. So we kind of educate clients that there are two big worlds that changes in either one can make the change in the estate planning necessary. What's going on outside and with the if I dare say so, maniacs in Washington and Harrisburg, and then what's going on in your life. So either of those can combine to cause people to need to make changes.
Well, Dave, I know that your firm will send out newsletters or emails and announcements, but don't you think that at some point in time, really, you almost have to set up training seminars for your clients just to tell them what they need to know? Isn't there really a need for that?
Yeah, I think there is, because the way people consume newsletters, we're old fashioned. We still send them by mail as well as electronically. But you're exactly right. Some of these things are so complicated that we have taken to running more training programs. So for example, with the kind of work we do, we represent families when somebody's planning their estate, and then we represent a lot of times the survivors and the executors in administering estates and trusts. So we have sort of 3 sets of seminars that we run, and this sounds very old-fashioned, but of course we do them virtually now during COVID. But we will pick a topic. Who do you pick as an executor, and then how do executors work, and what do they have to do, and what does the timeline look like? And it's funny because sometimes after those seminars, people will say, well, a lot of what you just said was that you have to go to a lawyer or an accountant for this particular thing or that particular thing. And it's true. I mean, we'd be hard pressed to teach family members how to fill out the 706 federal estate tax return. So sometimes the answer is, let's just help you to be more informed consumer of financial advisory, estate planning, legal and accounting services. And then other times we are actually teaching people how to think about these things and think about them strategically. But we do more and more training for executors and trustees, for people planning their estates, and then for people who are trying to protect or preserve assets and wealth, either because they've amassed a lot of wealth and they want to pass that on, or they've amassed modest wealth and they're worried that if they go into a nursing home, it could all be dissipated. And that's a very complex body of law that lawyers call elder law. And again, people they don't know what they don't know. And so they often don't take there's some simple things they could do, and they don't do them.
How does that affect your firm? I mean, all these changes and everything like that over the last 5 to 8 years or so must have brought along substantial changes in the way you do business, who you hire, and that kind of thing.
John, that's a very good point and observation, and it explains partly why I look so old and tired. COVID was a perfect storm because the government passed a law called the Secure Act, which radically changed how IRAs worked and how they integrated into people's estate plan. So we went back to our 10,000 best clients, which was most of them, in our estate planning and wealth preservation section. And we said, you really should come in and fix your trusts because these retirement trusts don't work right anymore. So we did that in January after the bill passed. And so we found that not a lot of people were reacting to it. So we went back to them and emphasized it a little more. I don't want to say we scared people, but we told them really should fix this. So at this point, hundreds and hundreds of people make appointments to fix this, and then COVID hits. So we had a little dance with the governor over when we could reopen, and eventually we won that battle, and we got reopened pretty quickly because the government was saying, close your doors, but we're not going to change any of the deadlines for inheritance or estate taxes. So we convinced the governor that if the deadlines aren't changing, people need their lawyers. So we got back to work, but we couldn't really bring people in. So March, April, May, we literally had hundreds of appointments for signing these fixes, plus the usual appointments that we had to push into June, July, August. By then, people started to become afraid that if the election went one way or the other, that it could mean very different things for their estate planning. So we then have hundreds of people trying to make changes before the end of the year. So I will say it's been a year like no other I can ever remember, and I've been doing this for a long time. So,
Well, Dave,
but finally, we also had to put methodologies in place to communicate with clients using tools like we're using today.
yeah, but with the changing regulations and adding this John's radical uncertainty,
Mhm.
would it be possible that actually different law firms or different accounting firms may have differing interpretations? So, like if I'm the client, I begin to wonder, wow, are these people looking at the same playbook or not? Am I making some sense? That
Yeah, that's a valid point. I think CPAs were experiencing this too, is that they didn't get the guidance they were hoping for, and they really wanted to be able to file the returns and not have to amend them. So you were getting different kinds of thinking about what some of these changes to the law meant, and of course, that happens in estate planning too. The main thing for the consumer to know, to ask when you go to see the lawyer is, how significant is the consensus on this? How much risk is there that the IRS could take a different position, or that the law would interpret this in a different way? You want the lawyer's best analysis of that, because some
thank
people,
you.
or some of my clients, are willing to take more risks and others aren't.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, this is thank you so much for that point. John, we have about 2 minutes or so. Would you like to ask the final question of Dave?
Are you having fun, Dave?
I am. I'm
That's a good one. That's a
I'm
good
still
one.
having fun, and we're building, like, to your earlier point, John. We're building a really good team here, and we keep hiring people, and we've gotten better and better at finding people who get it and love that we're a client-focused practice, and what that means, and how the communication works. And so we've probably had more new people come in. We have lots of people. It's a tribute to everybody that people who have been here 20 years or more are still having a good time, and people who have just been here a year or two dealing with some of this growth are really happily building our team and how we can help people.
Yeah.
That's great to hear, Dave.
Yeah. My hunch, really, it's a statement, it's not a question. My hunch here is the more money you have, the more troubles you have to deal with. It's a very backhanded compliment to
Good
people
problems
with
to
high
have.
net worth. Well, this has been fun. Thank you, John, and thank you, Dave. And
Thank you both.
well, our next guest on Money Matters will be Denise Neeson, CPA of B. Berkwall and Company. And I hope that we'll see each other soon. Thank you for watching Money Matters TV.